Can you give us a minute?
Are you that busy?
Yeah, I'm just finishing this off tutorial, which I'm now going to have to cut. What?
You're going to have to cut now anyway, aren't you? So, my question is,
yeah.
Did we have to buy the page builder for...
I'm another Magento dev. This is sort of part 2, following on from another tutorial where I added a multiple select attribute to the PDP. So continuing our work in the PDP, adding an attribute, a multiple select attribute that then controls icons on the product page. So if you've not seen the first part about adding an attribute and you don't know how to add an attribute, jump back in and have a look at that and then come back to this one. But for those of you who do know how to do that or have watched that, what we're going to do now is we're going to get the information from the attribute that's been selected on the product, display it on the product page in a specific area. We're going to touch on a few little SCSS sort of best practices. It's not really best practices, it's just ways I like to do things, but we're going to touch on that as well, which I know is probably going to be useful for some of you out there. Right, and here we are. So what we've got straight away is nothing basically, but I did show in the last tutorial that we've made the ethical icons are in there and they're selectable on a product. So where do we start? Right, first thing we're going to need is a block, and this block is going to be used to detect whether the product has the attribute, because it might not be on all products, it might not be on all product types, it might be an attribute that is sort of you know, basically not default to every product. So you want to do a check. You want to check whether whether it exists first of all, and then whether it's been populated. And there's a nice simple way to do that within a block. If I call it ethical PHP, again I get some nice boilerplate code, but I ain't going to use that. I'm going to use something that I've used before, and it's really my go-to script for basically getting the current product. Yeah, getting the product that you've landed on. It's not necessarily getting your current product, although it is, because there's another way you can do that. But this basically, I'll go through it step by step. Gets you the current product ID, and then you can use that current product object or the ID to get, or you can even do it off SKU if you want, but you can use the object to get any other attribute basically, so custom attributes or even a system, you know, attributes that are default to the system. So it's sort of a get product block. So right, this is what we're going to need to use. So we're going to need to use Magento catalog model product. We're going to need to use the template, the localized exception, and the registry. Let's have a look through this. You use the registry to get the product, and then you use a localized exception to throw a error if that product doesn't exist or fails to initialize for whatever reason. So we'll start off by extending the template, and we'll just tidy this up, just shorten it up a little bit. Obviously you can do it both ways. I don't necessarily need that up there, I can use it there, but since I'm using use, I might as well continue to use. First of all, I've got to set a couple of protected variables. I am going to copy and paste this from one that already exists just to speed things up, but I will talk through it. So, okay, so this is where I'm going to get my product object. This is where I'm going to my registry. Basically initialize both of these in a construct. So the construct is going to use registry, and it's going to use my template context, which is pretty much used in all of these. I can't think of a situation where I haven't used that. I've just always done things this way. So then, yeah, we're returning the product straight away. So first of all, so get a product first of all. I'm going to go get the product, and then obviously if it can't find the product ID, then it's going to throw an exception. But there we go. I'm going to return the product, and then this is the key little part that you can sort of use across any attribute you want, and you can use it in any way you want. But from my product object that I'm getting up there, I'm able to then get my attribute. And for those of you who are sort of beginners to this type of thing, getting attributes, there's a couple of ways you can do this. Bearing in mind that my key or slug or identifier is just lowercase ethical, Magento has a nice little magic function, if you like, a magic way of getting any attribute by just capitalising and using this camel case get and then your attribute. That'll get you your attribute, or you could use get data and then that would also work, but we'll use that. So now my block is outputting this function, which is going to get me, in this case it's a multi-select, so it's going to get me the object, it's going to get me everything that I need to be able to display this on the front end. So I've got that in, and that's now up and running. I can leave that for now, and I'm going to move on to connecting this block with the front end, and this is where your layout file comes into it, your layout folder within Vue. It's like the next step. It's the connector between the block that you've written and the template that the HTML template that you're going to show. So we'll add a view. Everything in the module has to be in a view folder, and then I'm going to look at layout. So within this layout, and because I'm editing the product page, the actual folder that I'm the actual XML file that I need to hook into, if you like, is catalog product view, and I've gone over this a lot now, where to find this, and basically you'll find this in, I won't show you because it'll take me a while, but if you follow my tutorials you'll know how to find this, and that is looking vendor Magento, and then anything to do with the catalog or products is module_catalog. Majority of the time, obviously there's some exceptions, which again I won't go into, but you'll find this file, and in this file you'll find sort of a boilerplate for Luma theme, or for the layout, which includes everything that you're going to need, or at least references to everything on the product page. So I'm just going to quickly throw in some boilerplate code here, but we're extending it, so we're not going to include the full file. We never do that, but we are going to hook into some specific areas in the product page, or on the product page, and majority of the detail is over in this block here, which is product info main, and that is the block here. So this right hand side here is product info main, and there's clues, and the main clue is that product info main, product-info-main essentially translates to product.info.main as a reference block, and you reference the block, you don't add the block as a block. And I've said this many a time, you don't want to be adding the block as a block, because if you add the block as a block you'll lose all of its sort of dependencies. You basically then add a new block. So what you want to do is reference that block, and we want to put something inside that block. Reference block. Right, so what we want to put inside the block is our new block. So, right, the class. This is important. So this is how we link what we've just written. So this guy, this is how we link it to our output. So without this link, you can't get that function, that get product ethical function. You just need to finish it off. So you saw I copied and pasted that there from my namespace, and then you finish it off with the class name, which is ethical there. I know ethical's in there twice, but I mean it's not great practice that by me, but never mind. I've done it now. So call this anything, so we'll just call it generic. We won't use it as at the moment. As is generally used when you can't call it, you are nesting blocks within blocks. You use as to help call the child HTML through. I could talk about that another time, maybe the next one. So what we've got is now a link to a template. So we've got to link it to a template. Right then. And that is fairly easy to do. So the next thing we need is a templates folder. And remember, it's layout and templates. So templates plural and layout singular. And then the templates folder can have anything in it, so I'll just stick to my naming convention, PHTML, ethical PHTML, and this this will output a PHTML file, and we'll do ASOS underscore ethical, and then we'll reference our template. Right, so now we're just gonna test. I always do this just to test, and I'm just gonna just to make sure that the actual HTML file is all linked up in here. PHTML file is all linked. So as you can see, I've just put test in that, and I'm going to refresh the front end.
Wait for it to burst. Wait for it, look out!
And it hasn't worked, which is always a joy. I've screwed up, and you never do, but tell us in the comments if you spotted it. Yeah, this is a view, it's a front end area, and I forgot to specify the front end folder, so now it'll work. So these files have to be in, these folders have to be in, so it's view front end layout, you can't just go view layout. Schoolboy error. So front end layout templates, yeah, brilliant. So now I'll just refresh this and we should get an output of test at the bottom of that block. Yeah, there it is. Look, there it is. Right, and so yeah, that's what you want to be doing. View front end layout templates. Sure you spotted that. You knew that anyway. Right, and so now we want to put this somewhere more specific in the template. So we don't just want it sort of hanging about at the bottom there. We want it more prominent. We want it at the top. So I'm gonna whack it above the just below reviews, the review summary. And the way you would do that is just like you would do it in a theme, or I've probably showed you this before. Move element. It's really powerful. So essentially, I want to move at shop.ethical. And I want to send it to the destination of, well, I want to keep it in the destination of product info main, and then I want to put it after, right, product info review, right. Yeah, there it is. It's now after product info review. Now you're probably wondering why I didn't just do this. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. I don't know why it doesn't work. Gotta be honest, but it just doesn't. And I think it's something to do with the order in which these elements load, and what dependencies they already have in the main template. But what I found is that if I load it and then move it, that works for me. It works for me every time. But there's no reason why that. If you know why that don't work, please let me know. I'd love it. Put it in the comments if why putting after on the block class don't work. Right, there we go. Right, so now we're going to pull the block through on this template here. Right, so we're dealing now with a multi-select field. So it isn't just going to be a case of displaying the field, because it's going to give me the value. It's not going to give me the full rich output that I'm after. So I'm going to have to run some more complicated code than that. So first of all, there's one I prepared. Right, yeah, it'll take me ages to type it. So here's one I prepared earlier. Right, yeah. So let's see what. First of all, we'll just test this runs, and then I'll go through it.
It goes.
Oh, no way, no way. Didn't check it, did I? Should have had a look through it. Right, and I think what I'm missing is the product block. So obviously I was getting product as well already in the block, so it means I can use it in here. And the reason I need it, so if we look at the error, says there on line 7, right? I need to go get the resource for the attribute as well, because I want to show the labels for the attribute, not just the value. So I want to show the full, all the metadata that comes with it. So I've got to go back to the product to then get that from the resource for the attribute. So if I show that, if I get that at the top there, basically I'm going back to my block, and I'm also getting the product object. I'm doubling up essentially, but it's the best way of doing this and showing the full richness of the, all, basically the label as well, like I was showing it. So it's going and getting me the actual label. Remember in this file from the other tutorial where from the other part where I specified the label vegan friendly. If I don't go and get the product, basically if I just display a drop down attribute or a multi-select attribute, it's just going to give me this. It's just going to give me the sort of value as the output. So I needed to do something a bit extra here. So what I'm doing here then is, okay, so I'm exploding, because what we get is just basically what you get is a string. So you basically get a string. I could show you what. So just to demonstrate what we get there, so if you can just see this part of it here, you might have to look closely in the code, but you see you just get a string, right, of the values. That's what I was getting at, and I need to go a bit further than that, so I'm just echoing that there. So I'll just pop that, I'll just get rid of that for a second. So what I'm doing is I'm exploding those values into an array, and then that means that I can run a for each loop around the information. I can then go get the attribute, so the label for the variable, again the variable that I'm sort of outputting, which is ethical, and then I can get the option text from that. So I can put the option value in there, which again is what I'm showing then here. So option value is what I'm showing here. But then I'm also using the value, so the value is useful, and that's obviously been, I've already put it into an array so I can get it again, and I'm using it to sort of like stitch together the icon. You can see it here, so they're not showing on the front end yet, but we'll just run through a little bit of SCSS to get them working. But yeah, so it's a very, I mean, I'll leave it on screen for a little bit and talk about it. Just have a look through it. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a few checks. I'm checking that something exists, and then I'm running around it. That's how I'm getting that. What I will do is I'll put this module on GitHub, so you can download this and have a look at it. But right, so the next part of this, and I'm touching on this now because I think this is important. This is the way I do it, and people all do it in different ways. So because I use generally a SAS or SCSS gulp theme, and I don't use Magento's native less or grunt, what I like to do is I like to have these built ready for me as modules, and they're just, as you can see, it outputs what I need in almost like raw HTML with no styles whatsoever. And then because every project I come to excuse me, has a different theme and a different layout and different ways of displaying virtually the same thing, I mean overall, I like to keep all my styles and all my images and icons and stuff in the theme basically. So I don't put any. You can use the web directory in here and use less and use less CSS. I could style this up in here, but I'd always have to redo it, and I sometimes use different frameworks like Bootstrap sometimes, Foundation other times. So core things change, and I like to keep the core changes in my theme. So what I would do in this situation, if you've already downloaded my SAS and gulp theme, then this would suit your workflow I think as well, is I would then jump into components here. I would create a new SCSS file, call it icons. So I've created an SCSS file here called icons, and I just need to link it up here, just in components. Okay, right, we're all linked up and ready to go. Okay, so there they are all sort of nicely spaced out. So right, inside that I've also got other LIs, so product icons. So it's fairly simple to then utilise SCSS to extend that. Okay, they're all in a line now. I'll just reset the padding. Same here actually. I'll reset the margin. Okay, right. And then, right, we'll give it a, I want to show the, to show a background, so I'll probably pop the icon. Where's the icon? The icon is on a span. Right then. So, and the span is within the LI, so we'll can use this, which is a, obviously these are, okay, so then I grab the icon and I want to say width, say, I guess at 30, I think they're about 30 pixels, height 30 pixels, right, let's position it absolute, that'll give us a bit more control. Give it left. Right, so there they are, you can sort of see them in the background now, so now I just need to give them a little bit more space. So you can see how fast this is to sort of style up when you're working this way, so you're writing very little CSS with this method.
Craft Wild or not?
I don't think so, I think we probably just used it. Probably already just had it.
We just had it, so we didn't have to buy it again.
Yeah. Okay.
Will we need to at some point?
No, I don't think so. Right, and we'll give it some top padding, some left padding. That's all sort of in line now. As I say, very little CSS. So, for those of you who don't know or are not familiar with this technique, basically using obviously ampersand means that it picks up sort of a class that's a part of a class that's on the same level, if you like. So ampersand. So if this was, you know, you could have another class here, say for example it had another class and it said open, then to be able to style up just the open one I'd have to do ampersand dot open, but because I've attached it with underscores I can use the underscores without the dot, and also just nest everything under product icons, because product icons is referenced on every line. Look, just in front of. So the final one that I'll do is just I was going to go label. I think it was label, and I'll just give it a bit of right margin. Was it label? Yeah. I'll just give it a bit of margin. Right of 10. Just to space them out a bit. So yeah, as you can see, we've got we've got some editable icons. So just to show you the functionality on here. So say if I wanted to only select 2, save it. Okay, so only 2, then show because only 2 have been selected. Yeah, so that's how we get that. That's the whole thing really. So we've gone through there, adding a attribute in the back end programmatically, which is decent for an install script, and then utilising that on the front end pretty swiftly. I mean, in terms of the amount of code you're writing to be able to do that. And now, as I say in the last tutorial, the best thing about this is that package I can now use on any. You know, I can just install it. If I'd have done it in the theme, I'd have had to. I wouldn't have been able to add the attribute So I would have had to, each time I'm starting a new store, make sure that I remember to add that attribute. And then I'd have had to add all the drop downs manually as well. So I know it's not great amounts of work, but it's nice if you can automate it. So having it in a module means that as soon as you install that, you're going to get some output on the front end. Obviously you're going to make sure your icons are in there, but the icons will probably change per project, no doubt. I know mine do, and you know, you're able to just control the output once it's all there and the bulk of the work's done. So you know, even down to the SAS file, that could easily carry over now. And I just pull icons, you know, if I called it something different, pull, you know, save this in my next theme, and the CSS is already going to be there for me as well. So I just found that good practice. So it's back to that question of when do you use a theme and when you use a module. I think what should lead you in that direction on a product page is whether you're adding anything programmatically to the database, or you're extending any of the actual data functions within Magento, like attributes and static blocks, like and what have you. I think if you should definitely go about using modules if you're doing anything like that. If it's pure theming, then you're just using your theme anyway. So as I say, you module for the core and then you style it up in your theme. I think it's a good balance. Okay, I'll leave it there. Have a good day.